This is credit to JP Jeremiah. This wouldn't be possible without this work. Please enjoy the video.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the next course, the Red Puyo course. Here in the Red Puyo course, our next goal is to focus on tackling many forms as we uncover more strategies that will be helpful in battle. That way, this gives us more information for us to learn other ways to build bigger chains. Understanding more about our situations during battles, even to tackle certain problems we will encounter. Let's begin. When it comes to building, it's always a good idea to know where your chain is facing. Transition is basically the starting point of our chain. It will always be done in column 1, which is the left side of your field. Turnaround is where your transition is. This is where we're going to build across. Midboard is the center of your chain. It is only for us to fill in the missing pieces of your chain, and to make things easier to build across for our turnaround. End chain lets us know where the chain stops. Formations are simply strategies players have discovered that take advantage of the drop patterns given by the game to create consistent big or fast chains. Stairs from the previous video would be an example of this. There are no right and wrong ways to create these, but following the formations as much as possible provides options and flexibility for you to build your chain.
A blocking method is a building method we'll use to prevent a group of Puyos from connecting to each other by using different color Puyos. This will block off any connection or even place adjacent for those bunch of slimy Puyo groups. Let me show you what I mean. First off, since there are 5 colors, out of those colors, the game will choose up to 4 types of colors randomly for each match. For example, with these green Puyos, in order to make a group, we just need another green Puyo. Connecting 4 together will cause them to pop. This will allow us to block off any connections for our green Puyos, which our red Puyo is our blockage. Sometimes, even adjacent is acceptable too. Just be mindful that it's exposed. Blocking method helps us to structure our main chain together. This method will always be using to set up our chains, so you will be repeating this a lot. GGR stands for Great Tanaka Renza, which was named after a player named Tanaka. Credit for Shoel finding out about that. GGR only looks like this, being the L-shaped group of green Puyos, setting off the 4 blue Puyos from touching the rest. It's like how you would put on your shoes when going outside. Yes, because a lot of people love to use this a lot. It's a very common chain everyone uses, and it does tackle transition setups very well, which is easy for newcomers. GGR is used as a transition, and it's a popular transition type due to how it's built, and there's many different ways it could be made, which is easier for newcomers. The difference with GGR is that it takes up 3 columns, and its form is notably easy to work with. It can be identified with its flat surface on top, and unlike other transition, it does not require you to have 1 column gap, which will allow you to build however you like with ease for the transition and even the turnaround. This helps us avoid putting us in bad spots, similar to how we build our transitions, since GGR is part of it. Due to GGR's flat surface, the trigger point is left open. Leaving it open is great as it allows you to use it whenever you need to. But if your opponent sees it, they can see that you can activate it whenever they were to attack you. That way, when you continue to build your chain, you react to your opponent while also creating a long chain, and you can continue to build without being caught off guard. The best way to build your GGR is to keep an eye out for the same matching pieces. Say you start off with blue-green and blue-green. That way, we have an easier way to get things together. We'll place them where those hollow Puyos are at, by placing 2 pairing of the blue and greens. in columns 1 and 2, while green takes row 1 and blue takes row 2. Next, we need 2 more of the blue and green. That way we can fully complete our GTR. Place one of the blue and green in row 3, taking up columns 1 and 2, and have the next piece placed in column 3. And then you should be finished making your GTR. From here on, feel free to build how you like for the middle and end chain from here on out. If we do not start off with the same pieces, place any color Puyos in column 3. Let's use red yellow for now, having red being used for our GTR in column 3, row 2, yellow being in row 1. We want to be looking for 3 more red Puyos. We just need any color Puyos with a red Puyo. That way, you can place the next coming pieces for columns 1 and 2 later on. If they still don't show up for a while, work on your middle and end chain for now, till you find the pieces you're looking for. We can go for a GTR with a sandwich, by placing blue and green in columns 5 and 4. Now, we see a red Puyo, but it's paired with a green Puyo. This can still work well. The 2 yellows can be our end chain for our GTR sandwich. For our GTR, we just need 2 more red and green Puyos to finish it. Now, this will complete our GTR. GTR can work very well with 2-to-2 stairs, L shape, sandwich, and much more. Don't be afraid to be creative with your GTR. To make the turnaround nice and flat, have your chain taking up the 4th row together, except for your transition spot, which will be columns 1 or 6. That way, you will have a much easier way to build across. Next up is sandwich. This formation is incredibly good when it comes to building larger chains. We want to stack 2 together, almost like stairs 2-2. But we do not add the extra 2 as our neighboring color. Instead, we have them split to where it will look like this for our chain, which you'll be placing over the 2 stacked Puyos, and column 1 will always be our transition, so we want to leave that open. There are 3 other ways we can set up a sandwich. 1-1-2, 3-0-1, 2-1-1, and 1-0-3. For now, we'll stick with the original, which is 1-1-2. We want to stack 2 together almost like stairs, 2-2. But we do not add the extra 2 as our neighboring color. Instead, we have them split into 1-1, to where it'll look like this for our chain. With 1-1-2 sandwiches, the 2 stands for the 2 stacking of the same color of the Puyos together. 1-1 are the last 2 remaining pieces to complete your connection of your chain. 1 piece is to seal off the neighboring Puyos, which you will be placing over the 2 stacked Puyos, and they need to be down in the 3rd row. 1-1-2 sandwich isn't the only setup we can use. 2-1-1 is basically 1-1-2 upside down, so there really is no difference with it. Then we have the 3-0-1 and the 1-0-3 setups. The 3 stands for the 3 groups of color Puyos being shaped like an L. For example, 3-0-1 has the 3 red Puyos being on the top, looking like an L, while 1-0-3 has 3 blue Puyos being at the bottom, also looking like an L, being upside down. The 1 is the last remaining Puyo in their respective colors, meaning we just need 1 more red Puyo and blue Puyo to have them pop their respective groups. There is one thing you need to keep in mind whenever we use a 3-0-1 sandwich, depending on how the chain pattern is. Any same colors that are close to each other, we can end up making the chain not possible. For example, see those 3 red Puyos taking up in column 3, and those 3 green Puyos shaped like an L, sealing off between those 3 red Puyos in columns 2 and 3. How the Puyos are placed right now makes green Puyos being part of the chain not possible anymore. The reason is, if we do get green and reds for our next piece, it'll be impossible to even connect together, because the green Puyos are too close together, and we cannot put another green Puyo there. It'll make our chain worse if we do so. These are one of the problems when two of the same colors are too close together. Whenever you mix 301, 103, 112, and 211 together, you want to keep them less exposed. Like, if they can touch, that's a no-no. Whenever we do encounter something like the last problem, they can have a solution around it. We need to put on our thinking caps, picturing an alternative way to fix it. A lot of other chains can have similarities like this one. All we need is a red Puyo that isn't paired with a green Puyo. That way, we can focus on getting a blue Puyo for the L-shaped blues in columns 5 and 6. It's so we can avoid popping the green Puyos exposed in columns 4, row 2. Multiple trigger points. These will allow you access to a main chain no matter which one you pop. Just keep in mind, it will cause your chain to be less powerful. But it's always nice to have a main chain to something, so always go for it if you feel like your opponent's chain is weak. If it's strong, do your best to extend it. L-shaped is literally grouped up the color Puyos in a shape and a vowel. It helps us to learn that most chains don't need to be placed adjacent rather than completely sealing it off on top of it, which really shows you how great L-shaped forms can be. To get started, you need to group up at least 3 purple Puyos in a shape of an L. Then we'll cover it up with a yellow Puyo, allowing us to focus on the last purple Puyo needed to its matching group, as the yellow Puyo being our next extension of color to focus on. Afterwards, our next piece is purple yellow and yellow red. For purple yellow, we want to place the purple in column 2, row 3. Also having the yellow Puyo fall into the 3rd column, landing along the 1st row. For yellow and red Puyo, have the 2nd yellow Puyo placed on top of the previous yellow Puyo from earlier in column 3. And have the red Puyo fall into the 4th column along the 1st row. From here we want to do the exact same thing we did for the purple and yellow Puyos, but we are using red and green Puyos. 3 red Puyos shaped like an L, while the green Puyo will be our extension of the color for our chain, and finishing it off with 1 more red on top of the green Puyos. Sometimes, for most chains, you can create an L-shaped transition. What's interesting about using the L-shaped transition, the red Puyo, which is the very last piece we needed from earlier, can also be used to build our transition. But here's why using this setup is super good. Take a look at that red Puyo way up in column 6, along the 8th row, and look at the 3 red Puyos all the way down in column 5. That red Puyo will always land next to it regardless. It has 2 different ways to have them drop down into their matching groups. It's still a fully connected chain. You just need to make sure it's placed there before your opponent throws out a secondary chain. Like main chains, there are also secondary chains. They aren't a full chain and are a part of your main chain. Their main goal is to slow down and make things more difficult for your opponent to build their own. Since they'll have to deal with garbage Puyos, these are used to disrupt your opponent from building and to ruin their chance to have a complete main chain. This can be used for striking first, reducing the amount of garbage from your opponent, even counter your opponent's secondary chain with your own. Do use it wisely. The best way to create a secondary chain is to make sure anything isn't part of your main chain. But if you're forced to, then make sure you don't use too much of it. One of the best ways to do this is to use up the very right side of your board, opposite if your chain is left to right. Only thing to do is to observe your opponent's building, making sure they don't have any answer to outbeat our secondary chain. This is because once your opponent sees this, they can predict how you play, and know you'll be ready to use a secondary if it exists. Another thing to keep an eye out are their helpful indicators. This will let us know if we can strike or back off from triggering our secondary chain. We want to search any option they have a choice of doing, and I mean any choices they have. This can be helpful to know whether they have something to respond to our attack, and even see whether they have a secondary chain of their own. It's important to see how long their chain will be, so you can get yourself ready once they do set it off. During matches, comparing our chain with our opponent's chain, it's always important to have a good understanding of how your opponent chains, as you also count how large it'll be. Our opponent has a 12 chain ready, while we have an 8 chain. It would be pointless to main chain it right now. Normally in this situation, it's always great to throw out some secondary chains to force your opponent to trigger their main chain first. However, if you feel like they won't have time to outchain yours, go ham, go nuts, go crazy. Keep in mind, you're giving them much more time to have themselves ready. So remember how popping multiple Puyos sends even more garbage? Well, we can take advantage of that and use it at the very end of our chain, which is called a power chain. It boosts up your very end chain's power, since more than one group of Puyos is being popped. It will increase your score points more. It'll basically give your opponent a surprise seeing your power 4 chain beating a normal 5 chain. That's because the power 4 chain scored more points than the 5 chain. Power chains can deal major damage the higher your chain is, since the longer your chain is, the more points you'll score. An example of power chains is Napalm and Thorn forms. Whenever you pop multiple Puyos groups together at the same time, it is considered either Napalm or Thorn. Napalm being 8 to 10 Puyos, while Thorn is 12 to 14 Puyos. Napalm being a quicker but less powerful version of Thorn. Thorn of course being useful if you have the time. Both can be used as a secondary chain, and since using either is quick, it can catch your opponent off guard and force them to quickly react to the new garbage Puyo they have to counter now. Making chains will earn you some points, as it multiplies with the amount of Puyos being popped. The longer your chain, the number will increase. For each chain you make, it will start from 1 to 8 to 18 to 32 to 66, etc, etc. It will keep increasing, which will earn you more points that way, which is why the power chain is done at the very end of your chain. Flat stacking is the last 3 links of your chain, which makes things easier to build a chain, help with extending chains, and creating transitions. When it's completely flat, it'll make things much easier to work on our chain, and easier to spot out unwanted conflicts near the beginning of the match, which will give you more freedom on how you'd like to build more over it, like with adding a transition or a turnaround. It can put you into a lot of trouble when hit by garbage, as when garbage Puyos drop onto this part, it makes our work useless, as trigger points and places to add transitions or turnarounds are covered completely. Start off with 2 of the same piece. We want to place them in columns 2 and 3, red taking up row 2 or green taking up row 2. Either way is fine. If we do get the same color pair with a red Puyo, the yellow Puyos will be our starting for our transition, instilling off the red Puyos, which the next piece being green and blue Puyo. We want to have those green Puyos adjacent with the other 2 green Puyos. Next up, we have the 2 yellow Puyos, which can be used for a flat surface in our transition area, or have them vertically, like a simple transition, or even have it as our end chain as well. Doesn't matter which of these you do. Usually transition would be better, so for now we'll go for a flat transition, by placing the 2 yellow Puyos in columns 1 to 2, taking up row 3. With the next piece being green and blue Puyo, we want to place the green Puyos on top of the 2 red Puyos, while being next to the 3 yellow Puyos. That way, once the red Puyos are gone, the green Puyos can fall and connect with the other 3 green Puyos. Next pieces are 2 blue Puyos and yellow Puyos. From here, we place both of the next coming pieces, being blue, which will take up columns 5 and 6. We of course want the blue Puyos to take up row 2, so that way, once the green Puyos are gone, the blue Puyo will fall and connect with its matching group. We will need 2 more yellow Puyos as well in columns 5 and 6, being placed on top of the 2 blue Puyos, and that's basically how you create flat stacking. For most flat surface chains, they do like to use a transition called flat transition, which is also introduces us to a setup called avalanche. Avalanche are all 3 grouped up color Puyos lined up individually. Once a Puyo is popped, will cause every next color Puyo to descend, causing the next color Puyo to match up to their same color. Avalanche can also be used as a flat transition, which is why the chain pattern for flat stacking can work really well with it. It can also be used as a secondary chain setup too. It's much easier to repair, unlike vertical transition, so whenever you feel like throwing something towards your opponent, don't be afraid to do so. Having a flat surface seems good and all. If your opponent ends up sending you too much garbage Puyos, it's very difficult to recover from this, since it completely blocks off your whole access to your main chain. We need to create a secondary chain to defend this, even if it's not strong enough. Another way we can avoid this is to stack our vertical transition high as possible. It'll allow us to reach our trigger point or dig out a main chain. And here we are, coming to a close on the Red Puyo course. I hope you learned more on chaining forms in this video. My advice from this point is to practice the forms so you will have a much better muscle memory and able to recognize the forms for yourself and to recognize them when they're used against you. Usually, I'll hop into a Seuss game with the CPU and set the chain max to 20. Open up a chain sim and try to copy it over and over again. Once you feel confident that you can build it, try building it without copying the chain sim you created, and see how big of a chain you can create. For secondary chains, hop into your ranked match and try to see if you can get some secondary chains off on your opponent while they don't expect it. This is so you can practice getting you used to building chains while watching your opponent's board, and when to properly time a secondary chain. For those who don't want to hop into ranked matches, asking a friend or any of the Puyo community is also a great way to train yourself too. And with that ends today's lesson for the Red Puyo course. I'll see you next time, and remember to keep popping.